Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the sports betting show, hosted by a real statistics professor. With me is Cousin Jared to discuss college basketball for Thursday, November 21st. Recap through Tuesday. I think we had a winning Tuesday slightly. We've just been kind of ho-humming to start the season. You know, we had a slight winning day there. We need a big winning day at some point. I don't know when it's coming. We need to get that big winning day, though. It'll be fun when it comes. A great slate of games for Thursday, because Jared, I don't know if you looked through it all, but we've got all these tournaments starting up here a week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and so first of all, this is my hot take. Until the conference tournaments and until March Madness, the week of Thanksgiving is the best week of college basketball. So that's my hot take. Unfortunately, it gets I'm not going to say unfortunately. I love college football, but it gets drowned out by a lot of the college football games that are going on that week. That's the big rivalry weekend and everything. But for me, there's nothing like sitting around watching some college basketball in the lead up to Thanksgiving. It's usually a lot of fun.
And it's like a good 10 days, because it's starting here Thursday, and so it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday, and then through Monday, through Thanksgiving, right? And then through the weekend there. So you've got a good like 10 days of great college basketball. All right. So again, we are live. If you're watching this on the replay, again, many of you watch this on the replay. If you want to check us out live here, we've been doing 9 p.m. Eastern. I was talking with Jake about this yesterday, maybe going to 10 p.m. Eastern a little bit later, if that's better for people. We don't know what people are doing right now. Are people dealing with kids and watching the games? We were talking about doing like during halftime of the big game that's that night or whatever. See if people wanted to hop over. So if you have any suggestions or whatever, we'd love to get as many people in here live as possible. So just drop a comment and let us know. Otherwise, though, we will get rolling here. 2, 3, 4. All right. So again, if you were interested in joining us over on Dub Club, the Honor Roll All Access package, a lot of benefits there. Again, you can pause and read all that. I feel like I say this a lot, so I'm kind of tired of saying all this stuff, but there are some links in the show description there to get you half off your first month. I feel like I just say the same things over and over every day when we're doing more of these shows. It's kind of like the, I don't know. Maybe we get new people in here and they're like, what?
It's like Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day or something.
It really is, right? We've got a player-based model here. Ratings like the current roster. Average is 100. So we have some good games here to cover. So you'll see some good ratings for these teams. Unlike, earlier this week where we had to kind of dip into some weaker teams. We are projecting an average game, and we'll talk about this specifically with our first pick. One game is unknown. We have no idea what will happen. We cannot predict the future. Nobody can. And I just cannot underscore, again, as we enter into college basketball, the variance of individual games is just through the roof. The in-game shenanigans. We had a pick tonight about an even money pick on the money line with a team that was down to, with 40 seconds to go in the ball, missed a layup, and all went downhill from there. And you're like, that's just – the variance is there. It's all about the long run. And that's what we say every show. 55% winners, we're going to lose. We're going to lose a lot of bets. The idea is we win more when we win than we lose when we lose. But it takes that big sample size, because one game just, who knows? If you're talking about one game, 2 games. And so, again, you just got a sample here on this show. We've got the full slate of picks over on Dub Club. Again, a really good slate here on Thursday. But anything is a good bet at the price or number. What you got, Cousin Jared?
Yeah, and I was just gonna say that for me personally, like yesterday, I think we went like 3-2 or something on the totals that I picked, and in my mind, I'm like 3-2. I really feel like we should be doing better than that. But
that's really good.
I have to remind myself this is a volume play. I mean, you go 3-2 a majority nights of the season, you're going to be doing great, through March. And so, just a reminder: this is a lot like baseball. This is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And I talked at the start of the show, right? We need one of those big nights because you're going to have nights where just things go terribly wrong, right? And you're going to have nights where everything goes your way. And it's like, we need one of those big ones where it goes our way, but we know in the long run, we know on average, we're just hoping to go 3-2 every night, or 4-3 or whatever on our top plays. And again, the model gives ABC. We think of it as love, like, lean. Again, 3 great games. We'll start off with what Sideline thinks might be the best game of the night. Baylor and St. John's, 2 top 30 teams. Notice Baylor, they're outside of the top 25, according to Sideline. Able to beat up on some bad teams, but you saw that performance against Gonzaga. Are they, whatever it was, 38 points worse than Gonzaga? Take away home court, 35 points? No, I don't think so. That would be pretty wild. But it does raise some questions. Scott Drew has a lot of new pieces to work with, a very good coach, but one who knows the value of peaking at the right time. Which is February and into March and conference play, right? And so I'm not sure, when things will turn around. I have confidence as a Baylor fan that it will. I'm just not sure it's there yet. I just don't have a ton of faith in this. I don't have a ton of faith in St. John's either. I don't really know what's going to happen in this game. And then again, we don't know what's going to happen in any of them, but there's not even a good feel for me as much as it is just like, I think this is going to be a really good game. Anything can happen. We've got the model's got St. John's as a slight favorite. 54% of the time they win. Even if it's a coin toss, which I look at it and just say, I have no idea. Like literally, I think if these teams play 20 times, I would not be surprised if it went 10-10. We're going to take St. John's at plus 120. It's, good plus odds. We always talk about it, right? If you can get me at the roulette table, get plus 120 on red or black, I do it every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So St. John's plus 120, A grade play. Cousin Jared, what you got for us?
So my thing here is neither of these teams, I mean, St. John's hasn't really done anything amazing. I would say they played Wagner, and so they have shown that they can play any style of ball. They've gone up and down the court, and then they have slowed it down a lot with Wagner. Baylor, outside of the Gonzaga game,
and they played New Mexico, who likes to get up and down the court, right? So they've literally hit two fairly opposite ends.
Yeah, they've seen both of them there. Baylor, they've been fine outside of the Gonzaga game. The problem is that Gonzaga game raises some questions. To your point, I'm not concerned at all. I think Drew will have them ready to go when the time is right. So you could convince me. Obviously, I'm not saying St. John's is Gonzaga, but it's like maybe is St. John's defense similar to Gonzaga? Maybe you could say that. I don't think their offense is as good as Gonzaga, but they'll definitely put up.
I think Gonzaga could have the best offense in college basketball.
Yeah. But is St. John's just as good as Arkansas or better than Arkansas, who Baylor beat earlier? Maybe so. I just think that overall, St. John's is the better team. You could tell me, their defense, their offense is going to be worse than Gonzaga was, but it's like, okay, well, that doesn't make up for the 35 points. Maybe their defense is a little bit better, but I think you could just like measure all of these things, and it's like I just can't get to a reasonable place where I think St. John should be getting plus odds here. And
another way kind of to come at that is when you look at where the model has these teams, it's got St. John's kind of smack in the middle between Arkansas and Gonzaga. Better on offense than Arkansas, better on defense. For sure. It's got Arkansas down at number 40. We've got St. John's here at 23. We've got Gonzaga at number 5, although it's the top just kind of shuffles around every day based off of what's happening, because it's just, there's a bunch of good teams, obviously. But kind of the point is too, that if you average those scores, you'd still have, Baylor lost to Gonzaga by more than they beat Arkansas by, right? Which goes back to, hey, St. John's could win this game. I don't know. It's the plus 120. If this was St. John's minus 120, I'd be like, nah, there's like no way I'm taking that, because I think
or even minus 110. You're just kind of like, whatever.
What's the point, right? But at plus 120, it's worth it. We talked about this yesterday with Alabama, which is about to tip. It just tipped right now, I guess. I don't know how that's going so far, but by the freaking time we were finished recording the show, I saw 8s out there, and I'm like, it was just what we were talking about hating. So again, we never know where the number goes. We send this out to people on Dub Club around 8 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, depending on when we kind of get to sorting through all the numbers and everything. And you never know where the number's going with it. Hopefully, there's still some good plus odds by the time you're watching this. But if you're watching live, you're with us on Dub Club, hopefully you got a good number. But again, we just never know where the number goes. But no matter where the number goes, again, we always encourage people to shop around. If you don't have an account there yet, check out BetUS. We appreciate them helping us keep the lights on here. And we will have the lights on for Syracuse and Texas, another neutral site game. All 3 games that we're going to talk about tonight are neutral site. I can't remember who is where, to be completely honest. This one might be in the Barclays Center. I think Baylor's in the Bahamas, because I asked Mrs. Professor, I was like, hey, do you want to hop down to the Bahamas? And she was like, well, you can go to the Bahamas and watch Baylor, but if I'm going to the Bahamas, I'm not watching a basketball game. I'm like, that's fair.
I can't say that I blame her.
I can't either. This one also at 7 p.m. Eastern. Again, I think this one's in New York City or Brooklyn. Syracuse and Texas, Syracuse in the state of New York, at least, I'm not giving them any edge. I know they're probably a little bit more comfortable playing there, but in reality, you're talking about a fairly new arena for them. So again, treating this as a complete neutral court. Syracuse wants to play fast. Their offense is better than their defense. Texas plays average, but their offense is better than their defense. When you have both teams who have an offense better than the defense, we think there will be a lot of points. Obviously, Texas is favored in this game. We think they should be favored, but we're going to, again, stick the total go over 154. A grade play. All three picks we got today for you here are A grades. The models is 160. The projected model totals coming down a little bit as scoring has slowed, but we still think this one hasn't come down enough. Because some of these bigger numbers I've noticed have gotten smaller if you wait on them. I don't know what this one will do. Like I said, we say that the number goes towards silent about 2 out of 3 times. Sometimes I've noticed these bigger numbers in the 150s and 160s, they've come down a few points the longer you wait on them. I don't know if this is one of them or not. I'm just playing over 154. I'd love to play over 140. What am I saying? 154. That would be, that's good enough for me. If it comes down, even better. Even 155 seems pretty reasonable. If it ticks up a little bit, I don't see this line ever getting towards where we've got it here at 160. So I think this is going to be a strong overplay. It's just always you can get the best number that you can. Cousin Jared, do you like this over? It's one of our top plays for the night. We have 3 of them we've already locked in here for Thursday. What is it about this that speaks to you?
Yeah, so Syracuse has, you mentioned they like to play fast. They've done a good job of scoring points in their game so far this season. The Youngstown State game, that had a couple of overtime, so that one got a little bit skewed. That still got into the mid-140s before they went to overtime there. And Colgate, that game got to 146. Colgate's a very unique team in that they are slow, but they have a very efficient offense.
But say they shoot a lot of threes. They're slow, but with the threes, and it's like, what is that?
Yeah. And so Colgate's always kind of a weird one to get. So, a game getting past the 145 mark with a team that plays slower like Colgate is still pretty good. The problem is that I don't think that's going to work for them against Texas, because if there's one thing that Texas has proven so far this season, it's that they can score points. They've scored at least 89 points in 3 of their 4 games. And that first game of the season against Ohio State, they scored 80, which at the time is kind of like, that's good. Since then, Ohio State has seemingly clamped down on the defense.
They just played a game last night and they gave up 30.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, and I mean that was a bad team. Humor me for
that's crazy.
Yeah, humor me for a second. But yeah, they only gave up 47 to Youngstown State, and then they gave up 30 to Evansville. So I think Ohio State's defense is pretty good. The Texas was able to get 80 on them, I think, says something. So I think this game's going to be fast. I think Texas is going to have to score some. The other thing about Texas is they don't have that many guys averaging double figures in points. They only have 3 guys, which most people would say, well, that's a sign of not a well-rounded team. I would say that's the opposite. They haven't really had to try. They've been able to empty the bench. They've been able to get a lot of guys minutes. In a game like Syracuse, where you would think Syracuse could, at least keep this close enough where Texas is going to have to try to play the regular rotation guys for a majority of the game, I think that's going to do nothing but, help add points to this. So I think this game gets into the, mid 150s or up to 160. I think there's just going to be somebody's going to get to 90 in this game is what I would say. I think it's going to be Texas, but I think
I would say so too. Sidelines got them in the mid to upper 80s, which makes sense, like you said, given what they've done. I want to talk just a second here about narratives, right? This game being played in an NBA arena in Brooklyn, right? It's a big stage for these guys. I think some people are eager to say in a situation like this, the bright lights may, hinder the scoring a little bit, make people hesitant or whatever. Can they handle the pressure, right? But I think the flip side is just as possible, right? They get energized, they get excited, they get up and down, and that just accelerates the pace. And then more shots on goal equals more goals, right? Well, it's the what was the thing from The Office, right? You miss 100% of the shots.
Yeah, the shots you don't take. Yeah,
he's like quoting Wayne Gretzky, quoting himself or something. And
Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott.
Yeah, exactly. And so you just never really know. And so it's a good reminder that the narratives and everything, that they're they're fun, but ahead of time you just don't really know. In hindsight, we'll have a narrative for sure that'll make sense based off this game. If this game sticks in the 130s, 140s, we're gonna say, oh yeah, it was two teams, that were, playing in a tense situation in a neutral site, blah, blah, blah. Right. But if this game gets into the 180s where it just flies over, right, which is possible, Texas could get to 100 easily in this game. I don't think that would be great. Syracuse defense is not anything to write home about. And the pace they play at, Texas gets into the hundreds, it's going to be like, oh man, they were energized and went up and down. Right. So it's like, who knows? Like what kind of hold true ahead of time.
Yeah, and that's actually a big thing that I look at when I'm looking at totals is how close the projected spread is, because a lot of, I think, especially like the first couple of weeks of the season, some of these higher scoring games you see, it's because they're blowouts. There's very little incentive to play defense. The game's in hand, early. Like you've talked about before, the bench guys are coming in. They're wanting to show what they can do. They're wanting to score points. The team that's down by a lot, obviously, they're still trying to score and kind of salvage whatever they can out of the game. As we get games that are projected to be closer, I mean, you're having your starters guys out there, they're maybe really trying to clamp down on defense for maybe the first time all season. So I'm more likely to go over in a game like this where the projected spread is still 10 points, where you think that, both teams are going to have to continue to score. One team can't really throw it in or whatever, as opposed to, a really close game where it's a projected spread of like, 1 or 2 buckets. And it's like, oh man, somebody's gonna have to really clamp down and play defense at some point in this game. So anyway, when it's a bigger spread like this, I'd like to go over because I think that, Syracuse will keep scoring and it'll just make Texas have to keep scoring just a little bit more.
And it's very different than when you get into conference play, right? Where in conference play, you get up by 20 and it's like, everybody slow it down. We've got a conference win. Let's just get a dodge. Non-conference, you don't do that. It just gets fun, right? It's like those 20-point games get a little bit different in the 15-point games, 20-point games get a little bit different non-conference versus conference. But the tight games kind of play out the same either way, where, like you said, it starts to get a little bit more like, hey, we want to try to win this game. So we're going to go over 154 A grade play. One of our top plays here again for Thursday night. If you want the other top plays, Dub Club is the place to be. Again, you can get a picks-only package for $19.99 a month. Top plays noted, all the extra plays, promo codes to save you some money. Again, check that out if you're enjoying the show and we're helping you make money. We'd appreciate you supporting us over there. Last but not least, Texas Tech and St. John's, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Again, a ton of great games. We've got at least likes on just about every top game. So if you have a top game that you like, we've got some information about it and a direction that we would send you. For this one, we're going to go also over 148 with an A grade pick. The model says 154. You've got a Texas Tech team that does not really play fast, but look at that offensive efficiency, top 5 in the country. And Tech's got a really good team. We've got them as a top 10 team right now. They've been kind of hovering in that top 10 range the last several years, right? Obviously going back to Beard, where they've had a team that made a national championship game. By some would argue should have won that game with the weird deflection off the fingertips thing, right? Then they've had a little bit more of a down, but they've always been very good. The model's pretty high on them here. And against the St. John's team, that wants to play a little bit faster. I think we're kind of seeing a similar situation we talked about in the first game, a game where we think might be a 10 to 15 type point game. And if that's the case, then both teams keep each other scoring. We're going to go over 148 as the model projects 154. Cousin Jared, what do you like about this one?
So I don't know where St. Joe's is going to be once we come tournament season. Are they going to be a team that's going to have to win their conference tournament to get in? I don't know. But they lost to Central Connecticut earlier this season and then turned around and beat Villanova. I am sure it will happen. There's a ton of college basketball games. Finding somebody with as wide a range as what St. Joe's has showed so far. And don't get me wrong, you and Jake especially have talked about is Villanova's not what we necessarily thought they were.
But it's not terrible.
No, they're not terrible. And Central Connecticut is very not good. And so if you know what you're going to get out of St. Joe's, you're lying to yourself. Because I don't think you quite know what you're going to get. But from what I have seen of them, especially in that Villanova game, I think they're going to be able to score some points. And so even if St. Joe's gets to like 65 or like 70, you talked about that Tech offense and how efficient they are. I mean, they can really score some points, and they've got a bunch of different guys that are contributing to that. They've got 5 guys that are averaging in double figures. They have 2 other guys that are averaging 8.5 points a game. It's like whoever they're throwing out there is able to score. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to continue in this game. I don't think St. Joseph's at the level that they're going to be able to stop Texas Tech. So I think this is going to be one of those things where Tech just scores and scores and scores some more. And that's really about it. Really good offense against St. Joe's, who just, I mean, St. Joe's gave up, how much did they give up to Villanova? They gave up 76 to Villanova. I promise you Texas Tech is going to get about 85 or 90. So it's going to be a high scoring game.
I just heard 5 guys, and now I just want like a hamburger, fries, and shake. Texas Tech. Yeah. Every game is its own thing, and we talk about this, right? It kind of works with every analogy, right? In college basketball, you play 30 games, you're gonna have 5 extreme both ways, right? 5 where you play really well, 5 where you play really terrible, 5 where you score. Just you're going off the rails scoring, 5 where you just can't buy a bucket, 5 where your defense falls apart. It kind of works with everything for the most part, on average. When you get to conference play, Tech is going to be a really interesting team. A lot of the teams in the Big 12, Baylor did this last year. Specifically, I know a lot of really Houston, Iowa State, a lot of these teams can do this where it's like their offense is really efficient. And if they played with any speed whatsoever, they can get into the 80s. But when you get to conference play, they don't really want to do that. They like everything's a little more measured. But these non-conference games, on average, they tend to let it go a little bit more, right? Again, that doesn't mean there's no locks in sports betting, right? Anybody can go cold. Again, this one's also in Barclays Center up in Brooklyn, so you just never know how any one game will go. But in general, I feel more confident backing it over in a Tech game and an Iowa State game and some of these games like that in the non-conference. When we get to conference, I want to see how they do in conference, because some of these teams just slam on the brakes, and it's like it doesn't matter how efficient their offense is. There's like 10 possessions of the game is what it feels like. So it's like you're never going to get over any reasonable size number because it's just a different style. But here in the non-conference, a little bit more likely to just kind of let it go and have some fun. And with that offensive efficiency, you let them go. And like you said, they're getting into the mid 80s, they're getting into the 90s. Another one, either Tech or Texas could either one of these teams could get to 100. It wouldn't be the craziest thing. They both have the recipe to do it. So getting over 148 A grade play there. Because Jared, that is our show here heading into a smaller slate, 29 games on Thursday, but man, action packed. Some of the weaker games on Thursday are as good as any game we've had all week. It seems like really good slate of basketball. Yeah,
I was shocked when I was looking at the quality of some of these games, and we try to not go too long on this show, so we kind of try to keep it brief. But you got Vanderbilt and Nevada, which I think is going to be a good game. And then you've got a little bit of an under the radar game, Memphis and San Francisco. San Francisco can score a lot of points. You got the rivalry game, Oregon State, of course, and then Tennessee and Virginia.
Oregon State, both 4-0, which I know they probably haven't played many teams, but that's good start for both those teams, both being 4-0, both top 100.
Yeah, and similar to what we saw with football this year, the games being played at Oregon State, and there's going to be some vitriol there, is what I would say, with everything that played out with the Pac-12 being the Pac-2 and everything. So this is a really, really good early season weekday slate for sure.
And of course, a handful of games in the afternoon, one game at 11 a.m. Eastern, 2 at noon, a 1:30, couple 2:30s, a 4, a couple 5s, and it'll carry through the Friday, Saturday, Sunday as well. So a lot of great college basketball here this weekend, if that's your thing. College football, if that's your thing. Again, we did, Jared, you and I did that show here on Sunday, so a bunch of those picks are still out there. Everything we did on the show still hasn't happened yet, but again, a ton of other college football picks. Had a great college football season. Hopefully we can get college basketball rolling in that right direction soon enough. But that's all we've got here for tonight. We do thank you for watching, and we remind you that you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.